Folks, brace yourselves for a trip back in time, way before Wi-Fi, microwaves, or even remotely trustworthy soap. This is the real story of what it was like to actually live in the past. But we're not talking about kings on thrones or knights in shining armor. No, we're talking about you. Yes, you. Waking up in a wooden shack with more fleas than friends, and a loaf of bread hard enough to knock out a wild boar. You open your eyes with the sunrise, not because you want to, but because the light pours through the holes in your straw roof. Your mattress is a sad pile of hay and chicken bones, shared with at least 3 other people and a cat no one remembers adopting. The smell? A delightful blend of smoke, sweat, and just a hint of despair. You get up to the sound of distant bells, or maybe it is your neighbor as Rooster, who still can't tell the difference between 5 a.m. and midnight. The floor is freezing, obviously. You throw on the same tunic you've worn for days, maybe weeks. It's itchy, it stinks, and it has a suspicious stain you're really hoping is mud. Breakfast time. Hoping for something warm and delicious? Think again. You get a watery porridge made from leftover grains and water you boiled to scare off the worms, and the demons if you're superstitious. The spoon? Wooden, cracked, and shared by the whole house. You eat it like you're serving a sentence. Because you are. A life sentence in a world where comfort is fiction and hygiene is a bedtime story. Time to work. If you're lucky, or cursed depending on the day, you toil in the fields, hoeing, plowing, planting seeds that may or may not become food, assuming the frost doesn't get there first. Your feet sink in mud, your hands turn to blisters, and it's not even 10 a.m. If you're an apprentice, you might be learning to make candles, or shoes, or carving wooden spoons no one really asked for. If you're a woman, work never ends. Childcare, mending clothes, grinding grains, making soup, staying alive. And in the middle of all this, the church. Oh yes, you pray. A lot. Because God is merciful, but also very, very busy. And maybe, just maybe, he'll notice you if you recite the same psalm for the 100th time this week. You go to Mass because everyone goes, and if you don't, someone will notice. And then you might be accused of witchcraft, or worse, heresy. You return home as the sun begins to set, not because the day is done, but because without light, you can't see your hand in front of your face, let alone the knife someone might be carrying behind you on the road. Dinner? Same gruel as before, only colder, thicker, and somehow with even less hope. You eat slowly, not to savor it, but to delay the inevitable. Running out. Night falls, and with it, the cold. You huddle with your family, not for love, but for body heat. The straw itches, the cat snores, the baby cries, and you shut your eyes hoping to wake up tomorrow. Because really that's all one could wish for, to wake up, to still be alive. Just one more day. You wake up to the sound of coughing, clucking chickens, and maybe a rat stumbling into a clay bowl. Yep, time for another glorious day in medieval life. And by glorious we mean exhausting, filthy, and soul-crushingly repetitive. The fire went out during the night and now the house is so cold your breath forms clouds. Someone has to relight the hearth, but the firewood is damp, or worse, gone. So you rip a chunk off an old basket, torch the broom bristles, and pray the embers don't die out. The routine begins again. You eat what's left of last night, gruel, now with a fresh sprinkle of ashes, and head out to work. If it's planting season, you dig, toss seeds, and pray for rain, but not too much. If it's harvest time, you race against the weather and birds to save what you can. If it's a fasting day, your food is even more depressing. And if it is Sunday or a religious holiday, which is often, you'll spend half the day praying and the other half pretending you are spiritually okay with it. Sometimes there are fairs, but don't get excited. It's the same moldy cheese, the same rock-hard bread, and the same preacher screaming that the end is near. Again. If you're lucky, you'll hear a bard tell a tale or watch a man juggle flaming torches and burn his fingers. If you're unlucky, you'll witness a public execution in which, let's face it, is more common. Yes, there's entertainment, but most of it involves pain, punishment, or booze. Lots of cheap wine, beer, or mead, because clean water, that's fantasy. Everyone drinks something fermented, even the kids. And the diseases? Oh, they're the real party guests. A cough becomes a fever. A cut becomes an infection. A cold becomes a funeral. You know the smell of death. She lives next door. The gravedigger is practically family, and no one gets old, except the lucky or the cursed. And yet, in the middle of all this chaos, there's music, there's dancing, there's laughter. Someone finds a flute, makes up a song, and people clap with filthy hands and toothless grins. Because laughing here, that's a form of rebellion. You come home sweaty, bruised, and bone-tired. Your feet ache, your back screams, and your soul, well, it learned to stop complaining long ago. You lie down in the dark, the roof leaks, the straw scratches, but you're alive. And today, that is more than enough. One morning, there's a rumor. A man passed through the village wearing leather boots and a tunic with no patches. Around here, that's basically a Milan fashion show. Everyone whispers, is he a merchant, a spy, a noble in disguise? Curiosity is one of the few luxuries not yet taxed by the crown. Life goes on. It rains for days, then it's hot. Then it rains again. The crops suffer. The village mood darkens. And of course, there's always a goat to blame. Literally, a boy disappears. No one says much. Sometimes children vanish, and the village simply continues. It has to. The mill doesn't stop. Firewood doesn't chop itself. Life here has no time for mourning. You start to realize the seasons are your true rulers. Winter is the tyrant. Summer, the taskmaster. Autumn, the debt collector. And spring is hope, but only sometimes. Then illness returns. Not just any illness, a plague. Someone shows up with black boils, fever, and hollow eyes. Within days it spreads. You pray, you fast, you light candles for saints you're not even sure exist. Fear hangs heavy in the air. No one touches anyone. The bells toll constantly. Burials are fast. Graves are shallow. The priest loses his voice from so much praying. You survive. By luck, or by miracle. No one knows. No one asks. Months later, life starts to stir again. The market reopens. Laughter returns. Music echoes through the mud. A baby is born, and people touch it like it's a sacred relic. You look around and realize everything has changed, and yet everything is the same. The mud, the straw, the porridge, the church bell, still here. But you're different. Your skin is thicker, your eyes are deeper, and your faith, quieter, but still alive. You still work, still sleep on straw, still share a spoon with the cat. But now you understand. Living isn't just surviving. It's persisting. It's resisting. It's somehow singing, off-key, in the middle of the storm. The years pass. You grow old. Not too old, of course. No one here lives that long. But old enough to see a new generation rise and repeat the same rituals. Sow, reap, fear, laugh, pray. Your body no longer obeys like it used to. Bones creak. Teeth vanish. Memory fades, but the routine remains, as firm as the mud clinging to your heels. The village changes little. Some huts collapse, others rise. The communal oven is rebuilt for the 10th time. The church gets a new cross. Someone plants flowers near the well, and everyone pretends not to be moved. The stories are the same. Of knights who never came, wars that never reached here, and loves that only existed in dreams. But you listen anyway, because stories are warmer than blankets. One night you lie down, the roof still leaks, the cat still purrs, the straw still itches. You close your eyes and think, maybe it'll rain tomorrow, or maybe the sun will shine. Doesn't matter. And somehow that comforts you. You have no riches, no glory, no name etched in stone, but you have a place in the memory of the land, and that is enough. Because to live here, in this time, in this mud, among these smells, prayers, and songs, is proof that even in the harshest of eras, the human soul can still smile among the thorns. And you smiled, even without teeth. Years later, maybe centuries, someone finds traces of your time. A cracked shard of pottery, a corroded copper ring, a warped wooden spoon. Fragments, echoes of an ordinary life, of a name no longer spoken, but one that once laughed, loved, hungered, feared, and believed. A scholar bends over these finds and says, "They lived in difficult times, and you, wherever you are, chuckle softly, because they have no idea. They don't know the weight of wet firewood in winter, the taste of porridge made from grains stolen from a bird's nest, the joy when a fire catches with the first spark, the relief of seeing crops grow after the frost. They will analyze, label, theorize about your daily life, but they will never feel the warmth of tired laughter around a fire. They will never truly grasp what it meant to survive without knowing if the sun would rise again, because you lived. And to live back then was a radical act, a dirty, sweaty, silent miracle. Time will erase the names. Mud will cover the footprints. But the essence of who you were, a human too stubborn to give up, that will remain. In every flower that grows where ashes once lay, in every elder telling stories by the roadside, in every child singing for no reason at all. And that is eternity. At night, the village whispers. The wind slips through the cracks in the huts and carries more than dust. It carries memories. Those who came before still walk here in silence. They don't haunt, they simply remain. You feel them when the fire crackles suddenly, when the cat goes quiet for no reason, when the church bell swings with no wind. Their voices no one hears, but everyone respects. Because here, the dead don't leave. They watch. They wait. They guard. Not like stern sentinels, but like old friends who prefer the shade over goodbye. Someone prays, and the words aren't just for God. They're also for those who once knew the paths before paths even existed. Grandparents, mothers, brothers, neighbors. Ordinary folk who became part of the land. You walk at night and avoid the stone you already know is there. The branch that always scratches, not out of habit but out of inheritance. Every step you take echoes footsteps that came before. And when you finally sleep, you dream of faces you've never seen. Yet they feel familiar. They smile, they nod, they whisper, "You're still here." And that's enough. In the village, time doesn't pass. It circles. It turns like the mill wheel, like the stories by the fire, like the moon. Ever returning, waning or full, always faithful. Here, the past is present, and the present is survival. And that is enough. Over time, you learn that the earth teaches, not with words. The earth doesn't speak, it leaves marks. Scraped knees, cracked heels, nails, forever dirty. Every grain of dirt between your fingers carries an ancient secret. You realize you don't just plant food, you plant patience, you plant silence, you plant hope. The field doesn't answer to shouting. It answers to care, to waiting, to the same gesture repeated day after day like a silent prayer. Rain doesn't come because you ask. It comes when it must, or when it shouldn't. And you learn to be grateful either way. Life here is made of repetitions. The spoon always stirs in the same direction. The loom weaves the same pattern. The bell rings at the same hours. But you change. Slowly, like erosion. Deeply, like the roots of the mulberry tree that survives the frost. And then you discover something no one ever teaches. True wealth isn't in silver or gold. It's in knowing how to make soup from nothing, in turning silence into warmth, in sensing when a cow is about to give birth just by the way she stares at the ground. Here, wisdom doesn't shine. It doesn't impress. It simply works. And in the end, that's all that really matters. In the lives of those who live with little, God does not shout. He whispers. He's in the steam that escapes from the pot and vanishes into the air. In the creak of old wood holding up the roof. In the breeze that slips through the crooked window just when the heat feels unbearable. Here, God doesn't wear miracles. He dresses as the everyday. He's in the child who survives the winter. In the harvest that yields just enough. In the flame that stubbornly catches on damp wood. There's no time to debate theology. No books, no Latin, just faith. Faith without spectacle, faith without proof. Tired faith, but steady. You learn that prayer isn't asking, it's remembering. Remembering that you're alive. Remembering that the sun still rises. Remembering that there is something beyond the mud, the hunger, the pain. And when the silence of night comes, it doesn't frighten. It embraces. Because those who've heard thunder rumble in an empty stomach learn to listen even to silence. And there, in the darkness of the hut between snores and wind, you feel someone is listening to you too. It doesn't matter the name you give. It doesn't matter if it's saint, spirit, or ancestor. What matters is knowing you are not alone. And that, in a world this harsh, is a luxury greater than any crown. There comes a moment when even time sits down. It exhales slowly, like a tired elder who refuses to sleep before the last candle goes out. You realize that haste doesn't live here, nor the future, nor glory. Only the now. The bread still warm, the baby smiling in sleep, the old woman telling the same story for the 100th time. And still, everyone listens. At last you understand that you won't be remembered for battles won or revolutionary ideas. But maybe, one day, someone will repeat your gesture, use your saying, sow with your care, and you'll live on a little in that. Eternity is not a golden temple. It's a good habit that spreads, and when you're gone, there's no statue, but there is soil turned by your hands. A wooden bench too worn to be new, too solid to be forgotten, and a shadow there, that is yours. Time moves on. The village breathes. The wheel turns. And for an instant, between the sound of chickens and the scent of burnt bread, someone feels something in the air. It's not wind, it's presence, yours.